Hey guys, what's going on? It's Tuesday, May 5th. I hope you are all safe and healthy as always. Um, and we are going to continue on with chapter 27 today. Today's a nice, easy day. No homework assignment. Please turn in anything for quarter four that you haven't, especially chapter 27 things. I gave a homework assignment yesterday. Shouldn't take you long. No homework tonight or today. You'll have something Wednesday, Thursday, and then homework will take a little bit of a break for a while, which is nice. All right. So again, nothing for tonight. We're just going to go over some notes. Go over the election in 1968, the end of the Vietnam War as far as the military goes. A couple things that happened at the end of 68 into 69, 70. Again, get that homework in if you haven't done it from section 2.2, which was posted yesterday. All right. As always, if you have any questions, please just let me know. This is going to be relatively quick because it's just a few things to go over. What you see here, if you follow the red dot, you have the election of 1968. All right, we're going to talk about that. President Johnson is up for re-election. And due to a lot of things, but specifically due to the issue in Vietnam, he does not seek another term. He is a Democrat. That will definitely shock a lot of people because everybody thought he was going to run. President Johnson finished the last 2 years of President Kennedy's term, was elected pretty heavily. You saw the map a couple days ago in 1964. Could have ran for a second term, but didn't. And Vietnam is the big one, and we spoke about that a little bit yesterday. All right, the protest in the streets, the Hawks, the Doves, Tet Offensive that just showed that this war was not going to end anytime soon. It was chaos. All right, and there was a lot on him, and he decided to just walk away. And you had Vice President Hubert Humphrey run against former Vice President Richard Nixon. We're going to go back to Nixon a little bit in the next chapter because he will be President Eisenhower's vice president. He will, for 8 years, he will run against President Kennedy and lose. He will run for governor of California and lose. And then magically in 1968, he comes back and he's the Republican nominee for president. And let me go back to here. Hubert Humphrey is going to be the Democratic nominee. And at their convention, the meeting where they nominate the president, chaos broke out. There were riots in the convention. There were riots out in the street. People protesting Vietnam. We'll get into one reason why they were angry also in a couple of slides. All right, so Nixon runs on the Law and Order, not the TV show. Okay, the Law and Order campaign of elect him, and he'll slow down these riots. He'll bring law and order back to the streets. He'll bring back normalcy. Okay, and peace with honor in Vietnam, meaning he promised to end the war in Vietnam with honor. Dive into that in a little bit. All right, Nixon wins, becomes the 37th president. We're going to talk a lot about Nixon this section, and I believe in section 4 when we get to it, we'll talk a lot about that also. Okay, and one of the things Nixon does when he becomes president, it starts the policy known as Vietnamization. Okay, where he's slowly going to bring American troops home, and I'll show you a chart on this shortly. All right, while turning more authority over to South Vietnam's armies. Okay, in July of 69, he lives up to his promise. He starts taking, all right, American troops home. However, go against his promise, and he actually bombed the country of Cambodia, all right, which is next door to Vietnam. I'll show you this on the map shortly, all right, which what became known as the Ho Chi Minh Trail. He promised not to expand it, but he actually brought it to another country very quickly, and in a few slides I'll explain why. All right, so Johnson doesn't run. Democratic Humphrey runs against the Republican Nixon. Nixon wins. He starts the policy of Vietnamization, and he starts bringing troops home. Okay, and here is Hubert Humphrey, vice president, running in 1968. President, running against Richard Nixon, former vice president, the candidate in 1960, had been around in politics a while. All right, and he's going to win pretty convincingly. All right, if you look at the numbers, all right, down here, okay, you have 301 electoral votes. You have 191 for Humphrey, and there was a third candidate, Wallace. We'll talk. We don't really get into him too much. All right, he was more from the southern for southern support. All right, but Nixon wins a large majority. All right, he's from California, so he wins California. Look at those electoral votes. All right. Humphrey did a good job. I mean, he put in almost 200 electoral votes. All right, but Nixon wins. One thing I do want to talk about in the election of 1960 is this gentleman right here. This is Robert Kennedy, or RFK. This is John Kennedy's brother. Okay, he was the Attorney General for John Kennedy, and he is going to be a nominee for president on the Democratic Party in 1968. He's running against Hubert Humphrey for the presidency from the Democratic Party. Here he is campaigning in California. He gives a speech, waved to the people. He was charismatic. He was his brother. He was young. He was great in front of a crowd. He believed in civil rights. He wanted to end the war in Vietnam. Unfortunately, shortly after that picture is taken, he's leaving California. He's leaving the hotel in California. He's heading for another speech. He's killed while walking through the kitchen. That He will die in the hospital. Here he is being wheeled into an ambulance. And unfortunately, the Kennedy curse strikes again. And like his brother, he is going to be killed as well. And we're going to talk a lot about John Kennedy next chapter. All right. This is his wife, Jackie Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy's buried over here. So unfortunately, Kennedy was probably the lead nominee for the Democratic Party. Okay. However, unfortunately, he dies, which allows Humphrey to win. Okay. When Nixon takes over in 1969, he starts bringing troops home, and here's the chart to show that to you. Okay, it's pretty easy. 550,000 plus. By the end of 69, he's bringing it down. By the end of 70, by the end of 71, and then ultimately by 1972, troops are getting home. Okay, this is the policy of Vietnamization, de-escalating. Okay, Lyndon Johnson escalated. Nixon will de-escalate. The one thing he will do, though, is he will bomb Laos and Cambodia. All right. American troops and American generals couldn't figure out how they were getting attacked by North Vietnam. 1970, they realized that North Vietnam was actually going through Laos, through Cambodia, into South Vietnam. The United States thought these two countries were out of play. Well, obviously they were not. Nixon, will order that trail bombed. Right? Goes against what he said. He had to figure out a way to protect his troops. Okay, this is a long one. All right, there's a lot here. Americans who find out about the attack on Cambodia are angry with Nixon. All right, they thought that he was going to end the war, bring the troops home, and they protest, just like Warhawks and the Dubs under Johnson. Well, more protests are going to come under Nixon until he brings all the troops home. And the most famous is going to be at Kent State University. Okay, where National Guardsmen will actually kill 4 students in a protest. All right, Jackson State, Mississippi Guardsmen killed 2 students and injures 12 in protest. These were not necessarily marches in the street. Things got violent. All right, all of that going on. Nixon was negotiating a peace. All right, the U.S. wants North Vietnam out of South Vietnam. North Vietnam wants all the troops out of South Vietnam. You have to start working on a peace deal. All right. Without people really knowing about it, 1970, National Security Advisor, his name is Henry Kissinger, okay, met in secret with North Vietnamese leader to start working on some sort of a peace deal. After 2 years, nothing was done. Okay, so Nixon decided that if North Vietnam was not going to sign a peace deal with the United States, he would just heavily attack them by air for 12 days. North Vietnam realizes that if they want South Vietnam, if they want to convert South Vietnam to communism, they need the United States out of Vietnam. So in January of 1973, they signed what becomes known as the Paris Peace Accords. All right? And the Vietnam War is over. For us. Okay? For us. That's very important to understand. For us. Not for South Vietnam. Okay? We'll talk more about that in a couple of slides, or if not tomorrow. All right? Kissinger realizes he works out a deal. The deal doesn't go through. Nixon bombs them for 12 more days, and they realize that the only way North Vietnam is going to win this is to get the U.S. out. To get the U.S. out, they sign the Paris Peace Accords, and the United States goes home. South Vietnam is left by themselves. Okay, so North Vietnam is not. This isn't a war, and this isn't ending North Vietnam's attack on South Vietnam. This is ending the Vietnam War for us. Okay, and Nixon led up to his promise. All right, he ran, he won, he brought the troops home, he ended the war in Vietnam. The lasting effect in the region was devastating to South Vietnam. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. All right, this is Kent State University. This is the protest up here. All right, these are college kids protesting the war in Vietnam, protesting Nixon's bombing when he said he wouldn't. The National Guardmen had to be called in and literally walked across campuses putting down the riots. Here's a student laying dead in the street. Okay, it's a famous photo. All right, this was a rough time period, and all of this was these people didn't want to go to Vietnam. They felt it was wrong. We shouldn't be there in the first place, and they didn't want to go fight. All right, and that's whether you agree or disagree, everyone's entitled to an opinion. All right, and you have to formulate your own. Okay, but they were protesting. The protesting got violent, and unfortunately, students died. Okay? This is Henry Kissinger. This is the gentleman who Nixon will send to Vietnam to start working out a peace deal. All right, secretly, nobody knows about it. And what he's able to get becomes known as the Paris Peace Accords. All right, Henry Kissinger will sign for the United States. North Vietnam will sign over here. Here's the meeting room where the Vietnam War comes to an end for the United States. I want to reiterate that. Not for South Vietnam. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. Okay, what happens to South Vietnam now that the war's over? All right, Nixon gets the troops home. Great. All right, the war's over. All right, we're kind of turning the page from really worrying about the spread of communism for now. All right, let's get the troops home. Let's get over this. Let's get the protest stopped, and let's get law and order back. South Vietnam is left by themselves. All right, and that's going to be devastating for them, and we'll dive into that later. All right, so again, and this is probably the last slide. Okay, sorry. Here you go. More signatures. All right, here's the room that it happens in. Okay, war is over. All right, GIs, the American troops are out in 60 days. Henry Kissinger's a hero. Nixon held up to his promise. Okay, and going home. All right, Nixon claims victory. The United States will claim victory because when we leave, communism hadn't spread, which it didn't. All right, but South Vietnam is going to be left on their own, and that's not going to be good for them. Okay, so again, for today, no homework. Just watch the video, look at the notes. All right, focus on a couple of things. All right, focus on what brought this to this meeting room. All right, how did the war come to an end? All of the protests that happened. All right, the gentleman involved in the signing of the peace deal, Henry Kissinger, who wrote it. All right, who was able to get it done. The protests that happened against Vietnam. All right, the chaos that ensued at colleges. All right, the bombings that took place. Nixon bringing troops home. Unfortunately, Bobby Kennedy dying in the presidential election. All right, he is assassinated like his brother was, which allowed Nixon to run against Humphrey, and Nixon will win. All right, we're going to focus more on Nixon on Thursday. We'll talk a lot about Nixon Thursday. All right, so for now, no homework. All right, the end of the war in Vietnam is over. We will dive into what happens to South Vietnam tomorrow, and then we'll get into Nixon's term. And then from there, I will probably post a review on next Monday, chapter test on Tuesday, and then we'll get into mid-May. All right, guys, so watch the video, look at the notes, no homework. If you have any questions, please send me a text to email me, and more importantly, stay safe and healthy. Take care, guys.